and welcome. I'm Hammeh. Today we'll be running through our top 5 tips for getting started in Gwent, the new digital card game from CD Projekt Red, makers of The Witcher. Now you've probably heard of the Witcher series of games, but if you haven't played them, Gwent is a fully playable game within these games. It was so popular with fans that CD Projekt have made it into its own game. If you enjoy good card battle, it's a great one to get into. The game's still in closed beta as of November, but with new people being added pretty regularly, you can sign up on playgwent.com to get in line for access. When you're in, here's a quick 5 tips to get yourself going quickly. Number 1. Know your faction. When building or playing a deck, knowing your faction strengths and general playstyle can really help you get going. Take the monsters for example. Monsters are great at filling the board with creature cards, so finding cards with breed mechanics that allow you to play more copies of a same card from your deck would be good additions. In addition to these faction themes, factions also have special abilities. Monster deck players, for example, get to keep a random unit on the battlefield when a round ends. If you play lots of big cards in your first monster round, for example, perhaps if luck goes your way, one will stay in play, giving you a really solid start to your second round. Tip 2. Vary your deck cards a little bit. Variety is the spice of life, particularly in Gwent, because it makes you less vulnerable. There aren't too many removal or debuff cards in Gwent, but they can wildly vary in strength depending on the deck you're playing against or playing. Take a look at Epidemic and Scorch. These remove all weakest or all strongest cards. Play a lot of units of the same strength or type, chances are that a canny opponent will try and use that against you. Varying the strengths and types of card in your deck can help you avoid this, as well as avoid the effect of weather, which brings us nicely to tip 3. Remember the weather. Weather's a pretty powerful effect in Gwent. It generally makes all cards on one particular row weaker, and some cards can affect multiple rows at the same time. Always make sure you pack a weather counter. Clear Skies is a great all-round card to have at least one copy of, and there are other cards and creature cards you can play that can clear weather too. Number 4. Remember both sides of the board. Weather affects both sides of the board, as do some spells, our friends Epidemic and Scorch again for example. These affect both your opponent and you, and all cards of whatever strength weakest or strongest is. Don't be the player who accidentally takes out their own minions or weakens his own cards by throwing snow in their faces. I've been there. Never again. Finally, for tip number 5, it's a race and not a sprint. Now remember, Gwent is 3 rounds. You need to win 2 rounds with more strength than your opponents to claim victory. If you play all your strongest cards or too many cards during the first round, you're basically handing your opponent the advantage in the rounds that follow those. You don't really want to do that, and you don't want to play more cards than you have to in order to secure a win. A good idea for an opening, for example, is playing cards that will benefit you somehow during the next 2 rounds. For monsters, for example, as I previously mentioned, playing a few strong units first is a great idea. Your opponent has to match the value that you've played, and you'll start hopefully with one of them on the table next round too, with your monster faction ability. If you're playing Skillage instead, your deck for example will focus on resurrecting units. Playing cards that benefit from resurrection in the first round means that they'll be ready to bring back from the dead for your second round. With these tips you should be hopefully hitting the ground running in Gwent before you know it. If you're not playing yet and like the look of it, like The Witcher or a good card game, I'd sign up for free at playgwent.com. Cheers for tuning in to this 5 tips to getting going in Gwent. If you like this video, please do like, subscribe, comment below with how you're finding Gwent so far and what you think of it, and throw me a follow over at youtube.com/failcraftcasts. Cheers for tuning in. I've been Hammeh. Take it easy.